Hello my friends, welcome back to the channel. Today we travel back to a young nation. A nation still finding its feet. There was a man. A farmer. A soldier. A leader. He did not want power. Yet power found him anyway. Have you ever wondered what it takes to lead people who trust you with everything? Have you ever wondered what it means to walk away from power, when everyone begs you to keep it? This man knew both answers. He knew them well. My friends, this is the story of George Washington. Before we go further, hit that like button. Subscribe if you are new here. It helps us bring you more stories like this one. Now, let us begin at the beginning. George Washington was born in 1732. He was born in Virginia. The land was green. The land was wild. The land was full of promise. His family was not poor. But they were not truly rich either. They were landowners. Hard-working. Practical. His father died when George was just 11. This changed everything. He had to grow up fast. He did not go to fancy schools. He did not study in Europe like other gentlemen of his time. He learned through work. He learned through land surveying. He learned through discipline. Young George was tall. He was strong. He was quiet, but watchful. He watched the world around him. He watched power. He watched leadership. He watched what worked, and what failed. Virginia in those days was part of something bigger. It was part of the British Empire. And empires demand loyalty. Washington gave that loyalty first. He served the British crown as a young officer. He fought in the wilderness. He faced danger early. He did not know it yet, but this early loyalty would one day turn into something else entirely. Something far more powerful. Something that would shape the future of an entire nation. Young Washington served the British in the French and Indian War. He learned hard lessons there. He saw battle up close. He saw death up close. He saw how quickly plans could fail. One day, in the wilderness near Fort Duquesne, disaster struck. British soldiers marched in tight formation. Enemy fighters hid behind trees. Bullets came from every direction. Washington stayed calm. 2 horses were shot from under him. His coat was torn by 4 bullets. Yet he did not fall. He survived. Many others did not. This moment changed him. He learned that courage means staying steady, even in chaos. Years passed. Washington became a farmer again. He managed his land at Mount Vernon. He married Martha. He built a quiet life. But quiet did not last long. Tensions grew between Britain and her colonies. Taxes rose. Anger rose with them. The colonists felt unheard. They felt controlled. They felt betrayed. Washington watched this closely. He was no longer a young soldier fighting for the crown. He was becoming something new. Something the empire did not expect. A rebel. A leader of a different kind. In 1775, the Continental Congress made a bold choice. They needed someone to lead a new army. An army with no real training. An army with no real supplies. They chose Washington. He did not seek this role. Yet he accepted it with quiet determination. The Revolutionary War had begun. And Washington now stood at the center of it. His soldiers were farmers. Blacksmiths. Ordinary men with no military experience. They faced the most powerful army in the world. Winter came harshly. At Valley Forge, soldiers froze. Some starved. Some lost hope entirely. Washington walked among them. He shared their hardship. He did not hide in comfort. He did not know it yet, but this suffering would soon lead to something extraordinary. Something that would test everything he believed in. The war reached its breaking point. Everything now hung in the balance. Washington's army was tired. Hungry. Outnumbered. The British held New York. They held Philadelphia. They seemed unstoppable. But Washington had one thing they underestimated. Patience. On a freezing Christmas night in 1776, he made a bold move. He crossed the icy Delaware River. In darkness. In silence. In danger. His men were cold. His men were afraid. Yet they followed him anyway. At dawn, they struck Trenton. The surprise attack worked. Hessian soldiers surrendered. Hope returned to the American cause. This was not the end, though. It was only a turning point. Years of hard fighting followed. Battles were won. Battles were lost. Soldiers died. Supplies ran short. Then came Yorktown, in 1781. The final, desperate stand. British General Cornwallis was trapped. Trapped by land. Trapped by sea. French ships blocked his escape. Washington's forces surrounded him. Cannons roared. Walls crumbled. Days passed in fire and smoke. Cornwallis had no way out. On October 19, the unthinkable happened. British soldiers marched out. Weapons lowered. Flags surrendered. The impossible had become real. A ragtag army of farmers had defeated an empire. Washington stood at the center of it all. Not celebrating loudly. Not seeking glory. Just steady. Just resolute. But the greatest test still awaited him. Not on a battlefield. Not with a sword. The war was won. Now came something harder. Something few leaders in history ever choose. What would he do with all this power? The war was over. The British were gone. America was free. And Washington now held enormous power. He could have stayed as a military leader forever. Some even wanted to crown him king. He said no. He walked away from power. Willingly. Quietly. Completely. This single choice shaped the future of an entire nation. It showed the world something rare. Power does not have to consume a person. Years later, the nation called him again. This time, not to lead an army. But to lead a country. In 1789, George Washington became the first president of the United States. He shaped the role from nothing. He set examples that leaders still follow today. He served 2 terms. Then he stepped down again. 2 terms. Not more. On purpose. He wanted future leaders to remember something important. Leadership is service. Not ownership. Washington passed away in 1799. His farm at Mount Vernon became his final home. His legacy became something far bigger than one lifetime. He is remembered as the father of a nation. Not because he sought glory. But because he chose restraint. Courage. Patience. Restraint. These 3 words defined his life from beginning to end. My friends, think about your own journey for a moment. You may not lead armies. You may not lead nations. But you face your own battles. Your own winters. Your own moments to choose between power and principle. Washington teaches us something timeless. True strength is not about holding on. Sometimes, true strength is about letting go. If this story moved you, give it a like. It truly helps this channel grow. Subscribe if you want more stories like this one. Comment below. Tell us which historical figure we should explore next. Until next time, my friends, keep learning from history. And keep writing your own story with courage.